Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a series, as you can see by the title. This is a series I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm going to continue to do this. So this is the first, so be looking out for that. Yeah, we're here today. The rise of O Echo is upon us. Hashtag influencer moment. And so guys, I hope you guys enjoy the video. I'm not sure if I'm going to try to timestamp it because this is right before the interview. But also guys, I just like to give a daily reminder to not give up on yourself and to remember to keep trying to be yourself, guys. You know, I hope this video finds you well, and you know, let's get into it. All right, guys. We got Richard here. Richard, would you like to say anything before of your introduction to the channel?
Just talking with you is a great pleasure. Always enjoyed it.
You hear that, guys? That's awesome. Okay.
Well, you're so energetic about life.
Thank you, Richard. All right, so let's get into this. First, before we get into these questions, I first would like to ask, what would you like to share about your career experience before we get into this interview?
Only that people should understand they can do anything they want. They just have to figure out what it is they want to do, or they may fall into it and find that they enjoy it. But you don't have to be an expert in a given field to become a worker in that field. You just have to have an interest in it and learn about it.
All right, so we're gonna get into this. So the first question I got here is, what is the most important lesson life has taught you?
My wife and I decided we wanted to travel the world, and we wanted to find out about people. What we found out about people is, regardless of where we went, all they really wanted out of life was a better life for themselves and their children. They weren't trying to dominate a government or a people. They just wanted to live well.
Wow, I mean, that's cool. You know, just for the record, guys, I'm going to also look back at this video and think about what is said. For the record, we're gonna keep going through. My next question I have here is, how do you define success?
That's a pretty interesting question. We all have different definitions of success. You, for example, would like to be more of an influencer than you are now. Some people just want to live a happy life and have a boat and have a car and enjoy life. For me, success is really doing what you want and what you think is important in life and is useful to other people.
All right, and then the next question I have is, what do you think a key to happiness is?
It may sound trite, but love is a key. And it isn't just love of another person, it's love of all people and understanding their strengths and their weaknesses and helping them. I think it's love.
The next question I have here is, what is something you regret not doing, if anything?
Oh, I regret not understanding my potential when I was young. It's like you and I were discussing. You've come about to figure out what it is you want to do in life, but it took you a time to get there.
Yeah.
It takes a long time for people to figure out what they want to do and what they want to be. And I took a long time.
And then my next question I have here is, what is one thing you never regretted that you would like to share?
I never regretted taking a chance. If you find people that you like to be with and you find an interesting occupation or an interesting lifestyle, you should try it.
I like that. And then so my next question I have here is, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Trust yourself. Understand what your potential is and that there are no limits to what you can do. But it takes time and work, and it takes help from other people to put you in the position to really extend your being into positions of influence and positions of regard.
All right, and then this next question I have here is, what has been your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
My biggest failure was, it took me a long time to figure out what I could do and what I wanted to, and not trusting myself to be able to do it. And when I finally figured that out, then there was no limit to what I felt I could do.
And then my next question here is, what did you decide to do with knowing that knowledge for yourself?
I decided that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a judge, because I thought being a judge where you hear facts and make decisions based on those facts is more useful.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. And then my next question I have here is, how do you stay positive in difficult times?
It's like you were talking about going on a trip and seeing the snow and realizing how beautiful the world is. I think for me, it's the appreciation of what a great world we live in and how good people there are in this world, and how we can learn so much and progress intelligently and improve life.
Yeah. And so the next question I have is, what is the best decision you ever made that you would like to say?
I guess it was in getting married. I married somebody I loved, and we were husband and wife for 60 years until she died. And she guided me in how I would succeed.
So the next question we have here is, how do you know when you're making the right choice?
Does it feel good or not? Does it feel like something that means you're making a contribution to life, and you're satisfied that what you're doing has meaning?
All right, and our next question we have here is, what's the biggest risk you ever took?
I think it's when I went on the Supreme Court. I suddenly found that I had to run for election.
Oh, really? I read a little bit about that.
and running for election statewide is difficult.
Yeah, that is difficult. Okay, seems like it. This next question I have here is, what do you think makes a person truly wise?
In my case, I think it's age and living long enough to experience a great deal of life and to maintain intelligence about what you learn.
Yeah.
And to learn how to apply it.
And then my next question I have here is, how do you think people can handle stress better?
I watch TV a lot now that I'm older and not so flexible anymore. And I see an ad where somebody is telling a younger person, you've got to let go. And he won't let go himself. But I think that probably that says it a lot. You have to let go of things that retard you, about mistakes you've made or enemies you've made, and look at life as a new beginning on each day.
And so my next question is what's one habit that changed your life?
I learned that I could influence people for the better, and that changed my life. It's like having the opportunity to talk to you. I feel good about that.
Oh, I appreciate that, Richard. I feel good about being able to talk to you too. And so here we have a question of which one is more important, or maybe if you have another idea. But I would like to ask, what's more important, do you think? Intelligence or wisdom? Or maybe something else?
I do admire people with intelligence, where it's applied to create new ideas, and at the same time, I admire people who have wisdom of experience and can guide you in doing the right thing. So it's difficult to make a choice between those two. I like to see them combined.
Yeah. This next question I have is, in this current moment, when I ask, can you recall any life realizations that really changed your trajectory as a person, in the story that you were living? What comes to mind from your early ages as a teenager to now?
I think realizing that I had good judgment, and it kept growing with the years and the information that came into my mind and my experience. And then when I became a judge, I was able to apply that. I think that changed the trajectory of my life.
And this next question that I have here is, how would you define a meaningful life?
I think a meaningful life is when you provide benefits to others. It doesn't have to be a lot of people, or in your case, it can be to a lot of people, but influencing people to do the right thing, to live a good life and be happy is pretty important in living your life.
Is there, the next question I have, is there a story that comes to mind from when you were younger that really you really remember right now about it for some reason?
I have discovered that life is not simple, and that diseases interfere in life. And I have a friend who has a life ending disease, and I talk to her every other day. I don't know that I do any good, but she likes to talk, and I tell her she's doing all right, and she thinks it makes her living a little easier. So I think understanding when people need you is an important factor in life.
And so my next question is, what are some qualities of a truly good person that you think from all the time that you've been interacting with people that kind of like stand out to you?
You know, I live in a retirement home, and there are people here who say, "Tell me when I can help you." And there are many people that do that. It really makes me feel good that I'm not alone, and that people will reach out to me and be of help if they can.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. Yeah, the community here is really beautiful, I feel like, and the people. Okay, and then so the next question I have is, what do you think people misunderstand the most about life as a general?
I think we probably think it's more of a struggle than it is, and don't enjoy the good moments of life and the good people that are in life. Sometimes we're so anxious about making a living that we forget that sometimes making a living is simpler than you expect it to be. And if you're going to progress in your business, it takes time.
And so, our next question we have here is, what do you think the best way to learn from your mistakes is?
To understand there were mistakes and what you did wrong. And if you've offended people, to apologize to them.
And then so, the next question we have here is, What is something people take today too seriously, you think?
I think we take making money too seriously. You don't need a $1 billion to be happy. And I sometimes wonder about the billionaires, if they found happiness, or their happiness is like King Midas, counting their money. Enjoying life and understanding that there is so much that you can do and experience in life that brings you joy. Go do it.
Yeah. And then so this question right here is, do you have a quote that you would like to share that comes to mind right now? Quote of the day, per se.
If there's one, I would say it's to look at living as an experience that could be exciting and is, and to live it to the fullest you can, and to travel and find out what other people in other countries are like, and how they live their lives, and what their values are.
I like that. All right. So, we have our next kind of segue of questions revolving around career. And so the first question to start off is, what was your first job that you've ever had?
Oh, I worked in a greenhouse where I put plants in a pallet so they would grow.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Was it just because I want to know? Was the a difficulty with the heat and stuff in there? Because isn't it warmer in greenhouses and stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I think I enjoyed it. It was in Spokane. You know, there are times that it isn't altogether too hot, except in the summer. It never bothered me. You make do with what you have to be able to accomplish what you need.
Well, what was the least favorite part of that job? I'm curious. Do you remember? What was the least favorite part?
Oh, I like to see things grow.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. And you plant these little plants and go away for a couple of days, and suddenly they get big. It's like that plant over there. That's the second flowering of that plant. And it's just amazing to watch.
All right. So, okay, so back to these questions. Let's see. What's the best career advice you ever received along the progression of your career?
Do what you think is right.
And then, so the next question we have here is, what was the most rewarding job you think you had?
I think probably being Chief Justice, because I had the ability to improve the system, the way the bureaucracy worked, and make the decision making easier for the judges.
And so, not what, but how did you choose your career path? What made you choose this direction of law?
Yes, I wanted to be a lawyer since I was in high school. Sometimes I fell into jobs as opposed to planning to take a job, but it was offered, it sounded interesting, and I found out that it was.
Yeah. And then so, this next question we have here is, what was the biggest challenge you faced in your work life?
Knowing who to trust, their judgment, their opinions, and the fact that you didn't have to always agree with everyone.
And so we have this next question is, what would you say was the most difficult career decision you had to make?
I think it's in personal life, the decision sometimes that you have to make is if somebody is so ill that you don't preserve their life if there's no life left.
And so, this next question is, what do you think young professionals should focus on?
I find that an interesting question because I look at what the occupations are today, and the sky is open. You can do anything you want. You can start with new ideas and new avenues of approach to doing things. The scientific discoveries are really opening up the world to experimentation and trial and error.
So the next question we have here is, what do you think the most valuable skill a person can have in their career?
Being someone that other people like, being friendly and kind.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I really resonate with that. And so, our next question we have here is, what's the hardest job you ever had?
Oh, I worked for, when I was going to college, the city, and I had to rebar down trenches, and that required a lot of physical effort.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. And so this next question we have here is, would you ever say you had a biggest career mistake?
I think for a time I didn't live up to my potential, and I should have been more energetic in finding more interesting things to do.
And so, our next question we have here is, what is some advice you would give someone just starting their career?
Look to see what the opportunities are, and do they interest you?
And then our next question that we have here is, what are the most important lessons you learned from working with others?
That there are compromises you need to make, as long as they don't influence your sense of right and wrong. And the compromises sometimes are good ones to make. So be open to new ideas always.
And then so, the next question I have here is, what do you think makes a great leader?
Well, if you look at the politicians today, a leader is somebody who often says things that they can't accomplish, but they do influence people to vote for them. I'd say what makes a great leader is, what have they done in life, and why should I follow them? And do they have the experience they need in this leadership job?
And then so, this next question I have is, what do you think it is easy for people to forget if they just focus working hard on their career?
Family. I think sometimes people get so influenced on being successful that they don't spend enough time in their family.
And then this next question here we have is, who made the biggest impact on your life that changed the direction of your trajectory as a person, you think?
Oh, I think probably it was my mother. She was a kind, sweet person, and she was much smarter than I thought.
Oh yeah? I'm guilty of that one. Yeah, I have reflected.
Well, sometimes you find that people, because they're old, you don't respect them because they're not up to date in what's happening in the world. But it doesn't mean they aren't smart.
It's a good one to remember, guys. And so this next question I have here is, has music been a big part of your life?
Yes. Yes, I like jazz.
Oh, yeah. And so, the next question I have here is, I like to premise it first, is I know you like knowledge of things. Was there a topic that you can recall that you spent a lot of time seeking knowledge about, and what did you learn about that?
Well, as a judge, you've sometimes had to really understand deeply what the nature of a business may be, or the nature of why there's a controversy, and figuring out the essence of it is sometimes difficult. People don't always tell you the truth.
Yeah. That's true. And so, our next question is, what is your most favorite thing found in nature? Curious.
I think it's walking beside a creek and among the trees and the bridges and the trail, and just being out by yourself, walking along and not having to think about anything.
And then so, another question I have here is, are you worried about the impact of AI in the future for society?
No, I'm excited about AI. I'm amazed at what we have learned through AI and what the potential for AI is, and what it's going to do for life.
All right. And so, this is a segue into our next category of questions. What was the, excuse me, what major historical event impacted your life the most?
Probably World War II. My father joined the military, and was gone for a long time. We had to move, and all of a sudden I had a different environment.
So, what are your thoughts about how technology has changed over all the years?
I'm excited about technology, and it has changed. You know, you go from a gasoline automobile to an electric vehicle. That's just a small part of the change that's taking place. It's exciting to me in terms of how it makes life easier and how many new jobs are created and how exciting they are.
So this next question we have is, do you think life was simpler in the past? Why or why not?
Yeah, I think it was. In the 50s, you know, there weren't many things you could get too excited about, and you didn't have the ability to have the jobs that are available now, or to travel like you can now.
Yeah.
And all of the changes that have taken place among airplanes and vehicles are pretty exciting. I think it was simpler there, and I think people maybe had simpler lives.
And then our next question we have here is, how has communication changed over the years, if you think it has?
Well, it has, you know. You look at TV, you look at the internet, it's instantaneous now. I look at advertising and how it has changed. I look at all of the ads that are on television now about medicines, and I wonder, are these good medicines or bad medicines? But there's so many of them that are being advertised and said, talk to your doctor about this and get this medicine. You're instantly going to feel better.
Yeah, yeah, there is a lot of that, seems like. And so, our next question we have here is, what do you think is the biggest difference between past and present generations?
I think that there are fewer people in the present generation that are ambitious than in the past generations. I think there are more people who are just satisfied with being rather than accomplishment.
And so, we'd like to hear your thoughts about this question, because I feel like it's open-ended, but the way I would like to word it is, what do you think today, wait, let me read it, but, what do you think people today have it easier or harder than before?
Well, that's a more difficult question.
Yeah.
Because if you look at technology, it's made life easier, but money has become more important in success and enjoying the aspects of living well. I think it's tougher to make a living than it used to be, because so many of the trades that did once flourish aren't in existence any longer.
So our next question is do you think people are more or less connected now than in the past in general?
I'm not sure that I can answer that very well. but I do see less of family connections than we used to have. And that's because people have moved out of small towns into large cities.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so the next question we have is, what's a tradition that has disappeared that you think should return? Does anything come to mind?
Yeah, holidays used to have more meaning than I think they are now. Maybe the reason is that there's more suspicious about the understanding of what the holidays developed from, but they are less serious in their application and more directed toward having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people are actually feeling that. It seems like, from what I've seen. And so our next question is, have your attitudes towards money and wealth changed over time?
Yes, I think it's important.
Yeah.
It takes more money to live.
Yeah.
And I've discovered that living as an old person costs a lot of money.
Yeah. And so, this last question about this kind of section is, how do you think history will judge this current era? Like, any predictions about that?
I'm pretty up on the current society. I think the potential for learning and development and ingenuity is at a high rate. I think life is going to improve for so many people. At the same time, I see that there are a lot of poor people and a lot of people are homeless and a lot of alcoholics and drug users, and that's worrisome.
Yeah. And so, I guess a question off of that one is, do you think that we're going to be working towards a solution as a society, you think, in the near future with all these advancements, or do you think it's going to take some more time?
As I look at the world, I think we are regressing from understanding each other's problems and trying to find mutual solutions together and looking more at individual solutions. I am concerned that there has been too much regionalism developed in the world, so that if you're a German or American or a Polish person, that you associate so deeply with that, when the truth is you're really a person of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, we're kind of getting into the next set of random questions. So this first one is, how do you know when to walk away from something or someone, if that is the direction of the answer? I feel like it's open-ended.
if you don't feel comfortable
Yeah.
what they're saying or what their attitudes are, or if their lifestyle is entirely adherent to your, if you feel that they're not essentially good people that influence you in the right direction for yourself, then you need to walk away from them.
And so, the next question we have here is, what's one thing people should stop worrying about, you think?
Well, there's a lot to worry about.
Yeah, it sure is. But we can name one.
I'm not sure. You know, I'm really troubled by climate change,
Yeah.
and I think it's real.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we do about it. There are things that are worrisome, but not terribly worrisome, and there are things that are very worrisome. And I think we should focus on the ones that may destroy our lifestyle.
And so, the next question we have here is, what advice would you give about someone trying to handle their regrets?
I've thought about that. And I think the truth is, if you can do it, and not everybody can do it, is understand that was then, this is now.
Yeah. And so, our next question we have here is, what do you think the best way is to overcome fear?
Sometimes you have to face it or avoid it. You know, I am afraid of snakes, but I avoid seeing snakes. So my way of getting over my fear is not to be around them.
And then so, our next question we have here is, what do you think the secret is to staying resilient during tough times?
To understand that time changes and things are going to get better.
And so, we have another question here. What's one mistake people often make when trying to be successful?
I think it's trying to be successful at the damage to other people.
Oh, yeah. And then, this question here, I'm kind of interested on what your thoughts about it is how can people develop a mindset for lifelong learning?
I believe in lifelong learning and going to school and learning about new things. You can read. Science, frankly, excites me because of what it's developing. I look at politics and see how it's developing, and I'm learning how society is changing, and people are developing more self-interest than universal interest. I think you've got to be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things, and study how those things affect your life.
Right. So, the next question we have here is, what do you think is the best way to leave a positive impact on others?
Just to be kind.
And then our next question is, what do you think the best way to handle difficult people is?
Probably listen to them.
And then, last question of this random section is, what's one mindset shift that can change a person's life?
I think it's attitude. If you don't feel good, if you think everything is bad, that really is going to mean you're not having a good time in life. You need to change that. You need to see that the world is populated by good people and good things are happening, and be a part of that.
Okay, and then, right now, entering into the next section is, as we're here, right, and this video will be up on the internet for the time of forever of YouTube's success. What would you like to say to this answer to this question of what do you want to be remembered for?
Being a good man.
Yeah. High five on that. Yeah, Richard is a good man. All right. And so this next question we have here is, if you could leave one piece of advice for future generations, what would it be?
Oh, I've kind of expressed it before. I think now is a time of great awakening in our societies. There's so many new opportunities for exciting employment, meaningful employment, learning new things, being a part of developing ideas that haven't been thought about, of not being put in a box and told to think one way, but to expand one's view. I think it's a time of really a renaissance in many ways. You know, not simply in art, although that's true, but in thinking, and thinking that everything is possible and you can be a part of it.
Right. And so, to kind of add on to that is another question we have here is, what is something you hope future generations will never forget?
I think we have to remember that really serious things were caused by bad people, and to assess our leaders as to what they stand for, and do they improve life, or do they provide net damaging thoughts for us.
And then so, our next question we have here is, let me see which one. What is something that young people should start paying more attention to?
Well, I've said that before. Global warming, which I think is very serious.
Yeah. All right. And so, our next question here is, how do you define personal growth?
I think it's partly learning new things, but it's also questioning your beliefs and looking at what your personal beliefs are based on, and are they good for you in your life and other people. And if they're good for you and for other people, then possess them, keep them. If they're not well founded, then find new avenues of belief.
All right. And so our next question is if you could teach a class about life, what subject would you think it would be?
Well, I did teach in Florence, Italy, and part of what I tried to teach was to expand your views of the world and look at how great Italy was and Europe was, and to enjoy it. I guess I would say learning and exploring your views as to whether they're right or not, and whether or not you have prejudices that have no being in fact.
So, the next question we have here is, what do you think is the greatest legacy someone can leave behind?
Well, the greatest influence we have is on family. And if you have internal love in that family, and they understand how important it is to relate to one another and to do that throughout their life, that's a great legacy.
Yeah. And so, next question we have here is, what advice would you give to someone who feels lost in life?
I think they need to find somebody you can talk to and to see why you feel lost in life. And sometimes it's a friend, or it could be a psychiatrist, but somebody who understands you and why you feel the way you do, and to take you out of that feeling of being lost. And also to decide if the way you're living is a part of the problem and they need to adjust. If somebody, say, is on drugs and feels they're lost because of that, they need to get help to get out of it. And there's a lot of help if you look for it.
So, our next question is, how do you find purpose in life?
Well, now, as an old veteran person, I feel purpose in life by talking to you and other people.
Yes, we love that. We love Richard. We love talking to Richard. I appreciate that. And so, our next question we have here is from a recollection, is there a lesson that you learned from a mentor that stands out to you?
The way they conduct their life, if it's worthwhile, if their thoughts are good and their actions are worthwhile, yeah.
And so, our next question here is, what advice
would you give to someone struggling with self-doubt?
Well, I have to admit, I've had self-doubt myself.
Mm-hmm.
You overcome that by understanding that there is nothing you can't do. And you do that by doing something you couldn't do. And that if you have the intelligence and the will to do things that you think are impossible for somebody like you, to try, to find some place where you have a reward and you can look back and say, I did that.
Mm-hmm. That's, yeah. And then so, the next question we have here is, how do you think people should handle adversity in a healthy way for the progression of their self-growth?
Evil?
Oh, adversity.
Oh, adversity. Adversity is difficult to handle. It's that we have to understand that time passes, and the hurt you had in the adversity passes with it in some degree. It doesn't go away. My wife died a year ago and I still grieve, but I'm better. Time has made me better.
Mm. That's good to hear. And so, our next question here is, what's something small that actually makes a big difference in life?
Sometimes it's reading about an idea that you've not thought about before that makes you sit down and say, I wish I'd thought of that. That makes sense. Why didn't I consider that?
Yeah.
You do that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And so, our next question here is, if you could give one rule for life, what would it be?
If I could give what?
One rule for life. The golden rule from Richard.
I think it would be to enjoy what life has to offer. You know, you look around now at my age, and I like good food. As you can tell, I like good art.
Yeah.
And I like good people. And I like good ideas. And I like to learn things. I guess never get to the point where you don't have curiosity.
And then for this next question, would you say you would have something different to say if the question is, what's a personal motto or guiding principle that you live by your whole life?
Mine now is to be kind.
Yeah. Right. And then so, our next question we have here is, what advice would you give to someone about finding true friends?
You need to have something in common with them, so you have something to communicate back and forth. You need to respect them and their accomplishments. And you need to have somebody whose lifestyle is something you can respect.
And then so, our next question we have here is, what's the best advice you have for someone going through a major life transition?
not to do it alone.
Mm.
Find somebody to talk to. It can be a psychiatrist, it can be a good friend, but you can't do it alone. If you have a tragedy in life, you need to be able to talk it out and get through it. And it takes time.
And so, the next question we have here is, what do you think the key is to maintaining balance in life?
I think having various interests. In my life, I'm really interested in reading the paper, knowing what's going on in the world, reading about what people are doing, and I paint. You've got to have some outlet for your expressions.
And so, just to get the viewers to know a little bit about it, why did you start getting into painting?
We lived in Hawaii, and I met some people who got together and painted it, and they went out into a gorgeous area and painted there, and you see some of their paintings over there. They got me interested in doing it. I like the camaraderie, the being together with people doing the same thing, and I liked learning.
So,
and I learned things about something I knew nothing about.
yeah. And so, when you're painting now, what comes to mind when you start a blank canvas?
That is a really good question. It all comes out of my mind. It's would I enjoy seeing? What can I create that doesn't exist? What would somebody like? What would brighten up a room?
Yeah. And guys, right now I'll cut with my editing. I'll cut to show you guys some of the Richard's paintings because they're quite beautiful.
This is one of Richard's paintings that he has painted. Amazing. That Richard's working on right now, today, before I came in, and also we got this one right here. Yep. All right, we're gonna cut back to the video.
And so the next question we have here is, what's your favorite color?
I think it's yellow.
Oh, yellow. And then
Bright colors.
And so, our next question we have here, it's kind of a little switch. But someone asked me about their thoughts about this. But so throughout time, have your thoughts changed about the LGBTQ plus community throughout time, which is basically people expressing themselves in different ways about how they identify as themselves and how they have interest in different people and such. So throughout time, has your thoughts changed about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm totally supportive of those people.
Yeah. And so I guess to continue this question is, do you remember what you thought about when a time were you ever not supportive of it?
I think there was a time I wasn't acquainted with anybody who was gay.
Yeah.
And probably I listened to other people who made derogatory remarks,
Yeah.
and I didn't say anything back. So I probably was not caring.
Mm.
But I have many friends who are gay, and they are decent, good people.
Mm. And so, my next question about this is similarly with this line of the last question about women's rights. Has that been something that has you changed your mind about throughout time, or have you always been the same?
I don't think I've ever changed my mind. I had 3 daughters,
Yeah.
and I always felt they could and had the right to do and be anything they wanted to be, and they have.
That's good. And so, this next question that we have is for people that are more closed-minded about accepting other people. Do you have any advice for them to think about that they maybe have not thought about before?
Well, that's like about all my opinions on my life. As a child, you grow up with the opinions of your parents and your friends, and then as you grow older, you begin to question them, and you begin to look deeper into why you thought about certain things, and was it real or not. So I think any opinions you have could be wrong, and you need to look at experience of other people and writings that explain why you should maybe take a new look at your ideas.
And so this wraps up the 92 questions for Richard. And so at the end of this whole process and stuff, I'd like to say thank you for spending time with me and chatting with me. Also, I would like to ask a final question of, do you have any last thoughts you would like to share in this moment? Because Richard, I have like this outro that plays some music that goes like you can like kind of dance to and stuff. So this will be probably the last moment before that. So I just want to update you about that.
I like talking to young people because they're not stuck in ideas that are phony or opinions of other people, but their own ideas and their own aspirations. I admire what you're doing, and what you want to do is be yourself and be an influencer on making people's lives better. And you're a really nice person to talk to, and you're honest.
Thanks, Richard.